the Missouri Valley Conference, I'm Brian Sullivan. It was a week of upsets in the Missouri Valley Conference, starting off with number 14 Northern Iowa, who was stunned by Eastern Washington 34-30. The Eagles came back from a 24-7 halftime deficit, even as their NFL-ready receiver Cooper Kupp and starting quarterback Gage Gubrud were out. Now to Grand Forks, North Dakota, where the Fighting Hawks came back from a 20-point deficit to beat South Dakota 47-44 in double overtime in the 51st edition of the Potato Bowl. Coyotes quarterback Chris Stredler did have 215 yards and 4 touchdowns, but 2 costly interceptions that were returned for touchdowns opened the door for the Fighting Hawks comeback. And finally, do we have to talk about the NDSU upset over the Hawkeyes? You bet we do, but we'll talk about that at the end. But first, before we get into this week's late schedule, I'm sorry to have to report that NDSU defensive captain Nick DeLuca is out for the year after deciding to get shoulder surgery this week to repair a torn labrum. He will miss 4 to 6 months, but will apply for a medical hardship waiver so he can return for another season. Let's start off by heading to Terre Haute, Indiana, where Indiana State hosts number 12 Illinois State in both teams' first conference game of the year. The 2-1 Redbirds look to rebound from the heartbreaking loss to Eastern Illinois, in which they outgained the Panthers 443 to 263 yards, but came up just short after 2 late touchdowns by quarterback Jake Colby, but a failed onside kick sealed their fate. It wasn't all bad, though, as Redbirds wide receiver Anthony Warren became the 8th player in school history to surpass 2,000 receiving yards and became only the 14th player in school history with 100 career receptions. This will be no easy task as the 2-1 Sycamores, coming off their thrilling come-from-behind victory over Southeast Missouri State 27-24, look to continue their success in front of Sycamore Nation behind Missouri Valley Conference Offensive Player of the Week quarterback Isaac Harker, who went 22 for 36 for 302 yards and 3 touchdowns, and NFL-ready wide receiver Robert Tonyan Jr. had 7 receptions at 97 yards and a touchdown in their win. To Western Illinois, where the number 15 Leathernecks, who are 2-0 for the first time since 2012, look to continue their success as they travel to Northern Illinois to take on the 0-3 Huskies. Leathernecks running back Steve McShane looks to continue his impressive season as he leads the nation in rushing yards at 181 yards per game and averages 6.96 yards per carry. And wide receiver Lance Lenore, with his 246 receiving yards, is 6th in the country. On defense, Brett Taylor and Xavier Rowe, who are ranked 1 and 2 in the Missouri Valley Conference in tackles per game, look to stop Huskies quarterback Drew Hare, who is 37 for 59 for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns this season, and their tough receiver Kenny Golladay, who had 20 receptions and averaged 13.4 yards per catch. Go to Missouri State, where the surprising 2-0 Bears look to continue their magical season, in which they already surpassed their win totals from last year behind a prolific running game in which they already have 3 different 100-yard rushers. Quarterback Breck Ruddick's amazing 65.4 pass percentage and a staggering defense that has only given up 220.5 yards per game and is ranked number 3 in the Missouri Valley Conference in rushing yards allowed by giving up only 51.5 rushing yards per game. The Bears' defense will be tested, though, as they travel to Kansas State to take on the 1-1 Wildcats. The Bears will look to stop the Wildcats' offense, who put up 63 points and rushed for 7 touchdowns in their win against Florida Atlantic last week. And finally, congratulations to the North Dakota State Bison, who went into Iowa as a 14.5-point underdog and upset the number 13 Hawkeyes, who had won 14 straight regular season games and 9 straight at home, 23-21 for their biggest win in school history. The Bison defense, led by Nick DeLuca, somehow managed to hold the Hawkeyes' prolific offense, which averaged 49.5 points per game to 21 points, and the offense, led by quarterback Easton Stick, managed to cut up the Hawkeyes' defense, especially during their last possession, as they marched down the field for the game-winning field goal by Football Gameplan Special Team Player of the Week, Cam Peterson. The Bison showed not only the Hawkeyes, but the entire college football nation that the FCS is not only for real, but should be feared. The Bison refused to be pushed around and intimidated. This was illustrated as they went for a failed two-point conversion to try to take the lead with 3:41 to go instead of tying the game. After their upset win, not only did NDSU solidify their #1 FCS ranking, but also received 74 votes in the FBS AP Top 25 poll, which makes them 27th in the nation, as they're tied now with UCLA and just behind Boise State. With their loss, Iowa joins a list of 5 other FBS schools who have fallen victim to the Bison since 2010. If you'd like to be a part of the FCS revolution, go to #FearTheFCS.